Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens, proudly brought to you by Fish City Hamilton. Fish City has been servicing the Waikato's fishing, boating and outdoor needs for over 30 years. And now, with the help of their online store, their great range of products and outstanding customer service are available across New Zealand. This episode, I was lucky enough to sit down with 4 very talented individuals from the sport of fly fishing: Jeff Pearce, Alex Waller, Dion James and Ben Henton. All 4 share with us what it was that drew them to the sport of fly fishing and what it is about the sport that keeps them coming back. We discuss a range of topics such as how to get started, how to best allocate your funds when choosing your first initial setup, and what is their individual area of expertise. We also discuss their favourite piece of kit and why, most memorable fish, fishing the beautiful New Zealand backcountry, and so much more. As always, the show notes will be available on the Real Tales with Sweens Instagram and Facebook pages, as well as the website realtaleswithsweens.com. Good George have a 15% discount available for all you listeners. Just use the discount code REALTALES before checking out of their online store. The link for their store can also be found on the realtaleswithsweens.com homepage. The team at Kilwell Sports also have an epic giveaway for you all. 2 fly lines from Scientific Anglers, valued at over $400. Details to enter will be shared at the end of this episode. Lastly, I want to say a special thank you to all the team, Jeff, Alex, Dion and Ben. Cheers for sharing your expertise and knowledge with all of us. So join me as we get an expert look into the sport of fly fishing. Enjoy the podcast. So we're down in the Kilwell office, down in the beautiful Rotorua, and we've got an international guest, which is pretty cool. So we've got Jeff Pearce here from Scientific Anglers. We have Alex, who most of you will know is Tripping on Trout. That's your handle, Instagram,
yeah,
YouTube.
pretty much everything.
Yep. And then Dion, Fueled by Nature Media. Have I got that one right?
That's the one.
Yep, nice. And then Ben is, can't remember your Instagram handle. You have to film me. Henton Guiding, that's it. And Ben's actually in the New Zealand development team, he tells me. I guess to start with, we'll just sort of go around the circle. Dion's got to shoot off shortly. He's got some jobs to do around town, but just a sort of brief introduction into who you are, what you do, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
So Jeff Pearce, I'm located in mid-Michigan, Scientific Anglers. Foreign sales manager, and I handle all of our private label stuff as well. So I get to travel to some pretty cool places like New Zealand. I'd like to work remotely from here if I could figure it out. You guys got you've ruined me for trout fishing here. I've been chasing trout since I was 10. A buddy of mine got me into it. I do it all. I fish conventional too. I prefer to catch them on fly, but I think I'm up to 160 species right now on fly around the world. So some goofy little stuff that don't matter, and some cool stuff like golden dorado or big brown trout in the backcountry here. So
Done tarpon? You done tarpon, eh?
yes, tarpon. Tarpon are terrible animals.
Redfish.
Redfish, yeah. A lot of species. It's this place is just crazy. I mean, I've had a chance to fish with you and Dion, and I don't think Kiwis realize what you have here. I mean, I honestly don't want to fish for trout, stream trout at home. It's pretty anticlimactic after being in a place like this. But
maybe Patagonia, that might be the only place.
Yeah,
I'd be
possibly.
interested in catching trout. For that reason, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, Alex Waller. I'm a guide and I'm a YouTuber. So if anyone doesn't know, I just basically go fishing and try and document that, and I guess share that adventure and also some informational stuff too. It's kind of my aim with that. And yeah, I was born in the UK, started to fish, actually probably about the same age as you, Jeff, like 10, 11, I probably picked up a fly rod, but it was conventional stuff before then, and then moved over here in 2003 and yeah, never went back.
Nice. Dion?
Dion James. I'm spent a lot of time as a young fella sort of on local rivers around the Bay of Plenty and stuff, and buddy of mine who got me into it as well. His name's Mr. G actually. He's an artist.
Pity the fool.
Cool actually. But we sort of started hitting the local rivers as teenagers and stuff like that, and a lot of my heritage is based down in Turangi, so I spent a lot of time back down at the homestead, hitting the rivers with uncles from there, and now I sort of get into a bit of the photography side of things and just really enjoying the outdoors.
Your photography game is come up.
Yeah.
It's
impressive, very impressive.
Very impressive.
getting there. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm Ben Henton. Been obsessed with fly fishing since I can remember, just a little fella. And like I was telling you boys before, started when I was probably 10. Just at the Rotorua Lakes at night time. Just a little fella and leaky waders, had to pull the old bread bags on the feet to stop the water coming in.
You too.
Not much has changed.
Yeah. And then just went from there. Obsessed with it, and then I heard about I was always a dream to get into the New Zealand fly fishing team. So I sort of years and years later, when I sort of got, maybe I can try, see what it's all about, and I went into a few comps and did quite well, and just the amount that you learn from going from, I thought I was a pretty good angler, and then you get into this comp scene and it's just on a whole nother level, and it's just been just awesome learning, and all these other guys in the comp scene that are happy to teach you, and so I've just been following that for the last couple of years now, just competition fishing around New Zealand. And
is it a pretty good vibe amongst all of you fellas, in that comp scene?
Yeah, I reckon it's getting better and better, Yeah. They're trying to make it for new people to come in and enjoy it. There's so many new people since I've started,
True.
have joined, a whole bunch of ladies, and it used to be quite secretive, and
Clicky.
everyone wasn't, we're not going to tell you what we're doing here, and they're trying to get rid of that, because how to perform in the worlds is you're like a family, everyone shares everything, and that's how they do better than all the rest, because they're just like a tight unit and they just share everything, whereas so we're trying to change it a bit now to be more like that,
That's good, eh?
So it's starting to change that now. We're getting a few sort of good guys that are leading it, trying to push it in that direction. And
Corey Scott and stuff like that, eh?
yeah, he's a flipping legend.
Yeah.
Was.
Couldn't really have a better mentor than that. By the
Yeah.
sounds of it, eh?
He's awesome. Just 11-time New Zealand champ, so you can't get much better than his skills.
And happy to have it.
He gives his time away,
It's awesome.
to other people, which helps heaps. So.
Yeah, because sport's an interesting thing like that, it's and I think there's been quite a big shift especially in New Zealand, around sport. Even I noticed through my professional rugby career, early on, it was almost like a bit of a boys' club, bit of a sort of secret society almost, and it was you can't get there unless you
earn your way
there, which is it's still good to have that. But what I definitely noticed, and something I took on personally as I became more experienced, I wanted to empower or to help the other guys, because ultimately that's going to make the team better. So when those new guys come in and they've got all the skills and all the talent, you actually want them to feel like they belong there and that they deserve that opportunity, and then you help them out, and that's where you see growth. And I personally got a lot of pride from seeing the younger guys perform, knowing that I played a part in sort of helping them on their way. So no doubt, that change of mindset in the fly fishing scene, because we'll talk about it a little bit more, but it's quite an intimidating sport to get into for a young fella. So,
and then hopefully by doing that, you're creating then a mindset for those guys when they're in your position and the new guys come through, that they're actually happy to kind of help and bring.
They remember how they started out and the people that helped them, and then they want to do that as well.
Yeah.
Because you forget, we were talking about that earlier too, because you forget there was a time where we all didn't know anything. Everyone didn't know how to fly fish at one point.
Yeah.
And like,
Open the box, you're like, I have no idea what I'm going to put on. I have no idea what I should be doing.
I still do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm on the right river.
Yeah. I just look at you guys' Instagrams and then I'm like, oh, yeah, I should put that on.
Because everything on Instagram is real.
Yeah. We talked about that earlier too, didn't we? Yeah. And I suppose in terms of fly fishing, I'm brand new to the sport, so I just started this winter. So I think I've been fly fishing for all of about 6 to 8 weeks. But
how many times have you been out in that? Would you say?
I would say I've probably done about maybe between 8 and 10 days on the river.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm pretty lucky with my job, and I guess what I'm kind of doing. I get a flexible day a week, so I can kind of sort of make that work. Got a pretty understanding wife.
Going down towards you've been going up Taupo or
mainly around Taupo. So started on the Hinimaya.
The training ground.
Caught plenty of blackberry. I think I caught one on my first day. I caught one fish from must have been about 25 bites, but tangled myself up. So I was stoked, and then I think I did maybe 3 or 4 days on the Hinimaya, and then fished the Tauranga Taupo, and then did a day on the Tongariro, and then kind of fished the Tauranga Taupo since then, and done one more day on the Tongariro.
They're great rivers, man. And winter's a
Yeah.
good time to start on there it's a good place to start as a beginner at winter. It's just because you can get those reps in, eh?
Yeah, hooked myself plenty of times and tangled myself up on my line. But I suppose for me, like, it was quite intimidating to start out, and it'd be kind of cool to talk about that a little bit, because I'm sure there's I've got quite a big sort of fishing following that are, probably more tailored to the saltwater fishing and game fishing and that kind of thing, because that's what I kind of do, and the guests I've had previous are kind of sort of down that track. But I've just fallen in love with the sport of fly fishing, and I think it's a sport in the purest form, for very similar to marlin fishing. Like, it's mainly about catch and release. It's all about that, I guess, the process to hooking a fish, to landing a fish, reading the water, all those, like mending, all these things that I'm kind of learning along the way. And it was quite an intimidating thing to kind of get into, and you mentioned it there, Alex, and we've all kind of talked about it, how, at one point in time it wasn't intimidating, but I kind of took the leap and got in and haven't really looked back. But what sort of, I suppose, for someone that's thinking about it, what's the best way to go about getting out there for the first time?
I guess it depends, eh? Like, I mean, Dion, you were saying you had is it a friend or an uncle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty lucky if you got something like that, eh?
Yeah, definitely helps. Having that knowledge with somebody that sort of knows what they're doing. Yeah, so it sort of coach you along the way, eh? Like, yeah.
If it's not a family member, then having, like, you had a buddy.
Yeah, I had a buddy.
So that's really good. So if there's someone you know that's into it, then that's got to be the way. If it's a family member or a friend, then that's you're cutting out months of messing around.
That's a big win there.
Yeah. Really
If not, then it's, you can try and run into somebody that fly fishes, or go into your local shop, say I'm interested, try and hook up with a local trout club. There'll be a few curmudgeons in the club, but there'll also be a few that are interested in getting, whether you're 18 or you're 58 and you're wanting to learn how to fly fish, and starting to walk you through that process. I mean, nowadays on YouTube, there's an incredible amount of videos that can walk you through stuff, but for me, I love getting out on the water and having a good day catching fish, but my favorite are getting folks from our office or friends of friends in town that don't do it, and get them out on my boat and introduce them to it and watch them catch a fish. And to have somebody screaming bloody murder because a 20-pound freshwater drum is taking all of the line off the reel, and they've never seen anything like that before. And that to me is just as good as it gets in introducing. And then watching that person develop and getting peppered with lots of questions and getting them pointed in the right direction, and watching them develop as a angler. And then, before you know it, they've got so much gear they're trying to hide from maybe a spouse for what they're spending, and now they're like committed and they're all in.
Yeah.
But I think if you don't have a mentor that you can kind of jump in with to reach out to get to the local shop and try and find a club and kind of work your way in there and join the club, and you will definitely find some people in one of the fishing clubs that'll kind of take you under their wing and get that ball rolling.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it. You can do it without. Like I did it. I was self-taught, and when I came here, I taught myself too. But it's a long process, and you can, unless you're super like, I guess, stubborn or driven or whatever the word is, like you can easily see how people start, don't do very well, don't catch, and then fall out of it fairly quickly because there's so much, like you say, there's so much to learn. It's so overwhelming, and I think New Zealand's pretty unique in the kind of fishing we have, right? Clear water, generally bigger fish, not the numbers that you may have in the States or other countries. So you kind of, it's a very different way of kind of fishing and catching fish to most other places. So it's kind of unique. There's a lot to learn.
That understanding what thing changed over time. Been through that. Oh, yeah. But you got to go through hell to get there.
Ups and downs, eh?
My wife gave up a long time ago trying to guess whether that was a new rod or not. It's just she's like she's been along for the full ride, so she gets it occasionally. She gets out on the boat with me as well. But yeah, it definitely helps to have a mentor. But yeah, you can. We actually had a young guy in production at SA that, because he came to work for us, he wanted to learn how to fly fish, and a lot of us were traveling. This was pre-COVID, and he became an incredibly proficient caster and a not so much application on the river, but a very good caster and a pretty good tire. I think he's watched every video on YouTube like 11 times.
Yeah.
And it was impressive. So the first time I got him in the boat, there was no talking about the roll cast or how to shoot line, but the application part of it was where, this is how you present the fly, or you want to be looking in this area for fish. But so you can definitely do it on your own and make some pretty decent progress, but you can solve a whole lot of the beginner fly casting challenges with somebody that's done a bit, where they can sit back and watch you and go, okay, no, you're coming too far back with the rod. You need to pause a bit. And then all of a sudden, like, the light goes off, and now you were casting 10 feet. Now you're casting 30 feet, which will do most of your trout fishing. And you didn't have quite that learning curve because you had somebody to kind of lean on and kind of help you with that. You can also, if you're tough skinned, you can shoot a little video of yourself and throw it up on one of the forums. And that could be like a whole social experiment in itself.
Getting that kind of like a starting point, and then it's then going out and then just time on the water, practicing hooking yourself, messing up, getting the cast wrong, go casting in trees, unhooking yourself, and then just kind of drilling and practice. I guess the same with any sport, any skill, right? It's all perishable skills. So you've got to practice and build those skills up, and then once you get to a certain level, you then got to do it enough to keep those skills. Because they'll go away again.
Most Kiwi anglers will be like, if you're out on a river and you see someone that's like just slaying fish, most fellas are happy to like share a bit of knowledge. You go up to them and be like, hey man, I see you're slaying it and I'm having a bit of a struggle here. Like, what are you doing? Usually, like they're happy to lend a bit of advice, and it might just make your day because you've try this, and it's just that cutting that learning process. He knows a lot. You're just cutting that time from what might be years of
him making the same mistakes.
Yeah, he's done it for years, and you're just cutting that time down by asking.
A little bit of vulnerability, to put your hand up and say, "Oh, can you give me a hand?" And you guys must get that a lot through social media, with people reaching out. Like tips, tricks, where to go, that kind of thing. Do you get a bit of that?
Yeah, you get a little bit of it. It could be anything from someone asking about what rod or line I think they should get, which is a tough one to do on social media.
Yeah.
But it could be anything from that to, places to go or how to approach a certain situation. You get a bit of it, but a lot of that stuff you can give them like rough ideas. But I mean, a lot of it comes down to, I might get a message like, oh, should I get a 5 or a 6 weight rod? And that's all they ask you.
Yeah.
But then, where are you?
I have a lot of questions to be able to answer that question.
Where are you? What country? What are you fishing for? What kind of water are you fishing? Is it a lake? Is it a river? Big filter, the size of the fish. So there's a lot of stuff that you can try and help with, but it's quite hard to do from the other side of the world or from a phone.
Most of what I get is where did you catch that?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm some of us are a bit cagey on you're careful with backgrounds and stuff, and I'm more than happy to walk somebody through the techniques I'm using. So this is what the water looks like. This is how I'm using a technique in this situation. So if you can get on Google Maps and find that type of water, this is going to work there. Some people get a little grumpy if you don't drop a pin on Google Maps and message it to them. Most people are pretty understanding about that, but and I'm more than happy, and for the most part, to just walk through everything that it takes for me to catch those fish that I was catching on that particular day. I may not want to give that spot out because I don't want 27 people there the next day, because some of the places we fish, the reason I fish them is I could fish 3 days and I won't see another person.
Yeah.
But that place exists pretty close to this other person's house as well, and here's how it took me maybe 3 weeks of tying flies and messing with leaders and what line to use in the presentation to figure it out. I'll give that to you, wrap it up in a bow and hand it to you, and then you can run with that. And there's times where I could not figure fish out watching a guy wailing on him, and he's cracked the code and he's more than happy to share it. And you're like, well, I got a spot like this. You run down the road to that, and all of a sudden, now you're wailing on him, and you brought your buddy, and you're a hero right now.
Starting out, what is the most important piece of kit?
To me,
in terms of value for money, or where to put your money.
I'm the fly line guy, so I'm not naturally going to say fly line, but what I will say along with that is it'll be very intimidating when somebody's first getting into the sport and they walk into a shop and they see rods that go from under $100 to $1,400 or $1,500. There's a lot of very good rods that are not a lot of money. You can have a pretty successful time on the water with a entry to medium level rod that is set up with a proper line. You can have a $1,500 fly rod that you put the wrong line on it and you're not going to be happy. So most trout fishing in the States, the reel is a line holder.
Yeah.
Here, sometimes you will see the backing here. So, but still a relatively inexpensive click and pawl if you're not really sure you're going to hop in, you don't need to spend a bunch of money on a reel. You can do that later. It's basically a line holder. You can palm the spool if you hook a big fish. You don't need to spend $1 billion on a rod. There was a guy at the casting event the other day, and he had a rod that he paid $90 for. It had a fair bit of glass in it, but matched with the right line. He was going to be able to present flies to the fish and have a good day. So not just because I'm the line guy, I'm saying line, but if I was to say a spot where I would spend a little more money is to make sure you have the right taper. So lean on the guys in the shop or the ladies working in the shop, get the right taper, and just spend the money on a good line, because you can have a good experience with a mediocre rod, a good line, but you can have a very bad experience the other way. You can have the best rod made if you don't have a good line on it. Or your buddy gave you his 30-year-old line that his grandfather had and is cracked and has no slickness to it and sinks. You're going to have a pretty miserable experience. So
yeah, I'd second that. I generally tell people to do the same thing. You can get away with cheap rods, cheap reels, but if you put a good line on that, then not only is that going to make that rod work better for you, generally when it comes to upgrading that rod, you can put that better line on that better rod too, and then it's going to, double down on that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Cheap fly lines, they don't help you. That's for sure. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that one, Jeff, for sure.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot with mending. So I've got Scientific Anglers, the Infinity Smooth and 6-weight, and then I use the Mates rod, and that's a really high end rod with a different brand of line on a different style, like it's a floating line. But mending that was horrible. I would just pick all of it up, move the indicator a mile every time, and then if I how I would normally mend my line, and then if I tried to dial it back, it wouldn't pick it up off the water, and I just couldn't. I caught jack shit. I caught nothing with it. But it's probably a $2,500 rod and reel setup, but yeah, I couldn't catch anything with it. And so I can definitely, from a beginner's point of view, I can see how that makes a difference.
It can be intimidating if you walk into a shop. I mean, there's going to be multiple brands that will be there. Airflow will be there. Reel will be there. Brand aside, there are a lot of tapers on that wall. And if you're backcountry fishing, you don't want the line that you would be fishing the Tongariro, double beaded nymphs, big indicators, because you will scare every fish in the river. That fish will be 4 miles downstream before it stops.
Yeah.
And same on if you're fishing the Tongariro, you don't want that dry fly line because you won't be able to mend at distance. So while the quality line is important, taper is critical, because if you don't have, and there's good all-round tapers too, that I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little bit of everything. Well, there's lines for that too. So it's important to make sure the taper is right, so that as a beginner or as an expert, you're able to do what you want to do. And there, it's good to lean on the folks in the shop, because you've got about a 90% chance of walking in and pulling the long taper off the wall if you don't know what you're looking for, and then you've spent a bunch of money and you're going to have a bad experience. So, and it'll be even more frustrating trying to learn. So
yeah, and that's where like if you could find an actual specialist fly fishing shop, they're the ones to go and talk to about that kind of stuff, because generally the guys that are working in those are trout bums and they live it. Whereas you might walk into a chain or a franchise or something like that, and you might just have someone that's just working there for the holidays or whatever, and they don't fish. Or they don't fish much, they don't know much, so it's harder to get good information from people like that.
Yep.
So if you go generally into a specialist fly fishing shop, then you've got hardcore fly fishermen in there, and they'll be able to tell you at least like good information. Eh?
that'll be the guy whose car is in the spot you pulled into fish, and you're like,
Oh, God.
I think it's about like presenting that to the fish. If you want to get the eat, it's going to be presented nicely, and that helps by matching your line to the rod so it casts nice, and then have some decent leader tied onto the end that's going to be supple and make that fly on the end of your line look natural. The fish is going to eat. You're going to have more fun if you're catching more fish, and if it's all working together nicely, you're going to be able to fish longer. And you don't need the most expensive stuff. You just need it to like work nicely together.
Lots of pieces to the puzzle, eh? Yeah, this piece and this piece, and it's all just got to kind of come together well enough that you can get the thing you're trying to do done.
I think the Tongariro is a good example of that, because you could stand on the bank and there might be 6 guys fishing a big pool, or by the bridge there might be more than that on both sides of the river, and you'll notice, I mean, it looks like everybody's pretty much doing the same thing, but you'll notice there might be 1 or 2 guys that they're catching like 4 or 5 fish for every 1 fish that the rest of the group is catching, and that's that presentation. If those are the guys that have got it dialed in, flies to some degree, but that's that perfectly drag-free drift. He's mending or she's mending when they're supposed to be mending, and they're getting that exactly right drift that if you didn't really know what to look for, it looked like all 15 people fishing the pool were doing the same thing, but you definitely notice there's a couple people that are doing it a little bit different, and that's where that learning curve of kind of cracking the code and that drift, that presentation and the drift. It doesn't matter if you got a $1,500 rod or a $50 rod. If you're mending properly and you've got the right setup, you'll catch as many fish or more fish than the person that's spent way more than you, and their car's worth, you'd have 8 of your cars isn't worth what their car's worth. So that part
time
doesn't.
on the water, right?
Yeah, it's just time and observation and asking questions. And
Yeah, but I guess that's just like to get going, like spending. I said if you're gonna like you said, you're gonna spend a little bit more money on something, make it a fly line. Everything else you can kind of get away with spending a bit less. If you've got someone to help you, that's great. Not saying this just because I do better guiding, but even like half a day with a guide. I mean, it might be a few $100, which seems like a lot of money at the time, but the way I tend to look at people when I take them out and I'm guiding is fishing's fishing. You might catch fish, hopefully you catch fish, you might not. But use the time with the guide to just milk them for as much information as possible. Like ask questions, spend the time. If you don't understand something or you want to get your head around something, that's the time to really just try and learn as much from a guide as you can. Because then hopefully then you leave the day with enough information that then you'll catch fish down the road.
Yeah.
even if you don't catch on the day, if you leave knowing more than when you turned up, then it's money well spent.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd done that at the beginning when I was trying to work things out, like when I first got here, because I wasted months, probably over a year, just not getting stuff right.
It can immediately take you from like level 101 college class to like 401 advanced, just a little bit of time. And whether it's a guide or whether it's a really keen, mate that fishes a bunch. But yeah, when we did some guiding back in the day, we would have some people that come out with us that they had their own boat and they just wanted to come on the boat and basically let us show them how to run the spread, fishing with downriggers, all that stuff. And the goal at the end of the day wasn't necessarily to have a bunch of fish in the box, but when they left, they could get on their boat and they could do everything they needed to do to catch fish. And some guides don't want to do that because they feel like they're going to lose a customer. But that's not the case.
Well, they'll tell their friends to come and learn from them. So there's another customer.
Yeah. I don't know where I saw it. It might have been on social media somewhere. Someone had a T-shirt and it was a guide outfitters, and they had a T-shirt and it said "Guide,
not God." Yes,
that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that resonates.
Yeah.
If you can't make stuff happen, you can teach people skills. Yeah.
And there's days where the fish you're doing everything right, and they don't care. They're not going to eat today.
Yeah.
And that's just part of
fishing.
Yeah.
It's part of fishing. And if you do it long enough, it's frustrating, but it's like it is what it is. And you'll be with your buddy, and he took you to his like secret honey hole, and he's like, "Man, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Dude, I fish. I get it.
It's good. Yeah.
It happens. I got to see some new water, some new stuff, and learned a couple of new techniques, but you can't make them eat. I wish I could sometimes.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. It sounds cliche, but it wouldn't be as good if you just knew every time you went out you get to catch that fish.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot with game fishing, and that's why it's so addictive, because I do a lot of game fishing.
Yeah.
And if you caught marlin like you caught kahawai, they'd just be a kahawai. And they're not that exciting because they're easy to catch and there's lots of them. So it's
I
like,
love kahawai.
Yeah. Just
they're
different.
in high regard.
Yeah.
Just a kahawai?
Yeah.
Wash your mouth there.
It's like the carp talk earlier. What?
Yeah. But that's like, if that's what you're, and for me, that's why I really like the trout fishing is because, or fly fishing, is the whole process to catching that fish. It's not like, it's the difference between soft baiting and burley fishing for snapper. Like soft baiting's active, you're hunting the fish.
Hunting.
That's that real, I guess, that kind of process, because I enjoy hunting as well, and I think that's why I really love marlin fishing, and that's why I really love trout fishing. It's because there's such a process to it. Like, it's not just burley up, chuck your bait in and wait for the fish to come and eat it.
Yeah, you got to go find that.
Yeah, you got to go find it, and you got to look at the river and learn, like, is that a spot that I think a fish would be? And if it is, okay, why? And then the more you can do, the more you can have success, and then you're like, oh, okay, that looks like a likely spot. It's the same marlin fishing, big blue ocean. You go, but people that know what they're doing, they go out there and they look at that big blue ocean and goes, there should be a fish there, and they'll stay in that area for that reason of what they see, and they'll catch a marlin. And you're like, how do you do that in the middle of nowhere? But you learn to read the water, see things, and it's just time doing it, I guess.
You wait till you combine fly fishing for trout and then saltwater fishing. That'll ruin you.
Yeah.
That's unreal. Like kingfish and stuff like that on the flats. It's just.
You do a bit of that, eh?
Yeah. It's ruined my life for a lot of years.
Yeah.
That's just very, very cool. Yeah.
It's one thing to, whether it's on the flat and you have a ray coming by with two kings on its back, or you're in the backcountry and there's a 6-pound trout just hugging up against the side of a rock. Okay, you found it, but that is a tiny, that is 1% of what you needed to do, because now it's, do I have the right line on to make that presentation? Is my leader right? If I have the right fly, how far right or left am I? If it's for the saltwater stuff, where's that ray going to go? I might make the perfect cast and the ray just makes a right hand turn, and now you've got to strip in. But there's so many variables to get you to the point where you're hopefully strip setting and putting the hook into a fish. I archery hunt a lot back in the States, and you don't just get out of your car and sit. I mean, it's wind direction, and there's a lot involved with travel corridors and exactly what the deer are going to be doing, and you have to put yourself in that position at that exact right time with the wind and everything else. There's a lot of things you have to solve. You maybe know where the deer might be, but there's 100 other things going on. You find that trout in the stream, like I was fishing with Dion on Monday. Oh, great, there's a brown there, but you cast a fly to it, and it's like, okay, he didn't like that. Was it the fly? Was it the way you moved the fly? Was it was just a jerk? Did it have grass on the fly? There's so many variables that once you find the fish, and to sit there and kind of, especially when the fish are difficult, sometimes it's more fun to just sit there and noodle through, and that satisfaction when that fish finally decides, all right, I gotta eat that, and get him. And if not, sometimes you sit there. I had a big fish that showed up out of nowhere on Monday and just nipped the back of the fly and then swirled on it again and scared the heck out of himself. And it was a big brown, and I just no idea it was there. It was cool. I'll remember that fish for a while. I didn't catch it, but I'll remember it for a while. So there's so much to do even when you're in the right spot to just noodle through to make it to the point where you're successful.
And sometimes, like you say, you got to work your way through. Sometimes you might only get 1 or 2 shots at that fish.
Yeah.
That fish comes up and you got a little bit of drag or something like that, and that fish will just refuse it. And then that's your shot. Then he'll just sit there. It might not even spook. He'll just go doggo. Just sit there. You'll see his body language change. That's it. And you might not just keep walking, man. Especially
in some backcountry stuff, you might only get 2 shots, 3 shots a day.
Yeah.
Fish.
Yeah.
So you don't want to bugger them all.
That's all part of the fun. It's that added. I like that added pressure. That added like you got to make that. If you can make that first cast count and you've ticked all those boxes, you've got everything right. You might hit it.
Thrill of a hunt.
Yeah.
When you get it right, you remember that.
It's good.
And you're like, next time you go back, you're a little bit better.
Yeah.
It took 5 fly changes, but it took this. So you go back and you try that one, and then you're like,
Or sometimes you'll, especially if it's a big fish, like you'll line up, and it's a cast you've made, I don't know, thousands of times before. You can do it easy, but then there's a big fish there, and the pressure comes on, and then you just fuck it. And then like the fish goes, and you sit there and you're like, I'm gonna do that again, and boop, just exactly where you should have put it, and the pressure.
Yeah.
It's great, man.
Yeah.
It never goes away.
It's important not to rush into things. Just
Yeah.
be really patient.
You got time,
Observe.
especially with trout, eh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just get back and watch for a while.
That'd be a good way to sort of calm your sort of emotions as well a little bit.
The
Like when
adrenaline's rushing.
when you see that fish there, oh shit.
Also,
we call it buck fever.
Yeah.
You see that big rat coming, it's like, just ignore it, breathe. I know that fish is like 9 pounds, but don't slam the tip of the fly line into his head, because he'll be, no good.
But also, and all that, just even just by sitting back and watching a fish for 5 minutes, you'll pick up stuff. You're like, you'll sit and watch him, and you'll be, he's feeding out to the right, or he's feeding out to the left. So, if you sort of watch him for a little bit, you kind of, or every now and then he might be feeding, then he'll drop back and he'll do a beat. You'd be like, if I'd have stepped there, he would have dropped back. And that's happened to me, everyone, I'm sure. You'll get in position a bit quick, and then a fish will drop back and do a beat and just,
I'm a log.
busted, gone. I should have just watched him for a little bit.
Yeah.
They do that on the lake here, the Browns. They'll work a specific run. Some of them will go in close to shore, and then they'll do a loop and come back around, and they'll just keep rotating and doing the same beat over and over again. So it's sort of place to sit back and just watch and just see what's going on.
And have a keen set of eyes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at spotting fish, but he's like, there's a fish right there. It's right there. I'm
Come
like,
on,
I don't see it. I'm blind.
Yeah, the more you fish a place, you always become accustomed to the environment.
Yeah.
You sort of
Maybe get at the beginning of the season after a winter of fishing, you're doing a bit less sight fishing, and so that first one and a couple of weeks or a month of getting into the backcountry, I'll spook fish because I'm like, oh, how did I not see that? It's because you're not tuned in.
Yeah.
Time on the water, man. It's everything.
Yeah. Just learning as you go and making mistakes.
Yeah. So there's lots. There's so much stuff, more than you can cover in one day, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And always learning. Every time you go out, always learn something.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it 40 years, and you never stop learning. And I was out with somebody not too long ago, and they got a fly stuck in the tree. They're like, sorry. I'm like, I've been doing it 40 years. I still pile them into the bushes, and I make giant knots. And a couple times I had to retie the end of the leader because I got it all messed up. And it's like you get a little bit of buck fever, and it's just get used to it because it's going to continue to happen. But you're always learning too. You're never not learning. Even if you're going to the same. I mean, I'm lucky. I get to travel around the world and do a bit of fishing here and there. But I could be fishing the same river by my house, and I'm still picking up little things here and there. So it's always learning, just absorbing.
Keep an open mind, and you will be. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a different way to do something too, right? Like,
No one way of doing anything.
Yeah.
Like Ben might do things different to me, but I don't mean to say that either one of us is right. That's a cool thing. Like you meet other people, and you kind of spend a bit of time with them, and you might talk to each other, or you might go out for a fish, and then Ben might be fishing to a fish, and I'll be like, I like the way he's doing that. That's cool. I haven't tried that before. Then I might go out there and try that next time.
Yeah.
And if I like it, I'll keep that in my repertoire. Or if I don't, then I won't. And it's all about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Every year goes by, I wonder how I caught fish the year before. Like, because I learn something new. Last couple of years, I've learned heaps. My angling's gone like, learning curve's gone through the roof after 30 or plus years of fishing. And I just wonder, how did I ever catch fish like last year? I was just been an idiot last year. It's amazing. It amazes me how much you can learn in a year, right?
Yeah.
Even after doing it for so long. It's great. I love it. Well, you were saying going into the competition game, you thought you were pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you started doing that, and you're like, whoa.
Before that, I was what I know now. I would smoke a guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just started. But
Whereas before you thought it was a bit spicy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you try new things now, like from what you've learned, and there's always someone better than you. That you, as long as you're learning off them and take what you want, and if it works for you, that's what I love about.
Yeah.
What I love about this game. There's always tips and tricks to learn.
You must love that, like, I guess the adrenaline rush of it, especially with the competitive stuff that is probably heightened a bit more.
Yeah, it is pretty. It's pretty cool, eh? Like, you got to be a little bit competitive to get into that sort of side of it, because it can sort of. It's not for everyone, eh? Like going out there and you've got a time limit and you have to catch as many fish as you can in 2 or 3 hours. So
it's like the opposite to mine.
yeah, so to some people it's not as enjoyable, because you've got that pressure and you're like, then fishing might not become as fun for them, but there's the other side to it that you're learning just so much, and you're just becoming a greater angler because of all this. And when you do have a good session and you win, it's just like that sportsmanship and competitiveness. There's nothing else quite like it, right?
Yeah.
Cracked it.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to turn that off when you just go for a fish, like outside of a competition, or are you in that? Is it hard to stay, I guess, or to pull yourself out of that mindset? Do you find yourself when you're fishing, it's about catching as many fish as fast as you can?
I'll probably I definitely will cruise a bit, when I'm not out comp fishing, but I will always be trying to my head's always a little bit in the game of comp fishing, because you want to constantly be you just got to crack the code basically. So you're out there and you're fishing away. You want to be doing little practice sessions when you're out just having a fight. I'll spend the next 2 hours just imitating a comp and trying to change things if it's not working every 10, 15, 20 minutes, So, but then I can go, if I'm just backcountry fishing, I'm not really thinking.
You can just turn it off and
I've got the skills
that
are a lot more skills to be able to maybe
transferable skills.
But I'm just cruising, spotting, and the backcountry is
completely different.
Yeah, it's in on another level. But if I'm still water fishing, maybe the comp stuff comes in a bit handier to be able to crack that code quicker. But
you don't have all day to figure it out. You've got to if you're not catching, you've got to figure it out quickly.
Yeah, like the comp we had last weekend, the lake's dirty from all the rain we've had, hydro lake, and you sort of go in and you're like, winter time, it's colder, so the fish aren't going to be you're not going to be stripping as fast, so you'll be like, slow it down. So then what line shall I fish? I'm thinking, I'll go in with the inter and stuff like that. And you're going through all this, and I start fishing with it, and my buddy Corey's over there in the boat over there, and he's just catching all these fish, and I'm like, bro, he's doing something similar to me. Like, what's going on? Like, I know the fish are there because I could see little like tufts of sand pop up, like they were there. It just wasn't getting onto them, so I changed to like one of my other favourite lines on that lake, the seamless density, sink 1, sink 3, and that usually just dominates. But maybe because I just didn't seem to crack the code, and then it wasn't until that final session I cracked the code, and I think the fish were just looking up. So I might have been I had heavier flies than he did, so I think they were
Going past them.
going underneath, or because it's been a bit dirty, they might have been up top higher. So it's all about cracking the code. So I fished it on the last day. I finally cracked it and just had the hell session and won it. But just fished this intermediate, the clear camo all day, and just
With
smashed
weighted
it.
flies or unweighted flies?
I had 2 tungstens, like 3mm tungsten beads on, and
Nymphs?
and no, three tungstens. Might have been on that first day when I hadn't cracked the code. I had a booby on the top dropper.
Yep.
And it just you learn all the funny names of the flies and you get started into it. But yeah, just so it could have been like, I know my flies would have been sinking a lot faster than Corey's. So
they're going past.
he fishes brass beads, so it could have been that. So when I go home, I write all this down in a book.
That's the way.
This is what he's done. This is what I think was dirty. The silt falls down to the bottom. Maybe they don't want to be down the bottom where it's siltier. They want to be up top.
Yeah.
For murky waters on.
And they're all kind of like what, buzzer patterns or
Just like
little nymphy just things.
just woolly buggers like
Oh, okay.
in the murk. I sort of went bigger and darker.
Bit more profile.
So it's
I can
like
see it.
a silhouette.
Yeah.
I think black stands out a bit better in dirtier conditions.
Yeah.
So you're just thinking about all this sort of stuff.
And that's just one day.
One day
Every day you go out there, things are different, and you change it all up again.
Yeah, like
Different
if
temperatures. and
it was
different
clearer in 1 month's time, I look back in my book and we fished that last year in October,
Yeah.
and it was completely different. Like the fish you'll be fishing dry fly with nymphs underneath a lot more.
Wow,
Because it's
really?
like had the lakes warmed up a bit, the insect hatching.
Is that like a dry dropper setup or like a washing line type?
Yep, dry dropper.
Yeah.
So you'll fish like a dry fly, and you might have 1 or 2 nymphs
Hanging off underneath. Yeah.
underneath, and you could even like static fish a woolly bugger and strip, and then have one's a nymph or something like that.
So you'd have a woolly bugger as one of the droppers off under the dry.
Yeah,
Wow,
you can
see,
that
that's
slays it sometimes, because sometimes the fish they're preferring to take like a static fly, like not moving as much. Sometimes they're lazy, like especially in
And
winter.
then just drift that with the
They
wind.
just prefer to take like a slower moving fly, so that speed of retrieve. This is everything you're trying to like fast track to being able to crack it.
And then you'd let that drift with the wind.
Yep. Something if it's the bugger on there, you can strip it as well and see. Oh, they're taking on the strip. Well, that seems to be working. Or they're not really taking a strip. What fly are they taking? Oh, they're taking a midge or something. So yeah.
That's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Something.
You've already got that right now. You've already got it later on.
That's just years of obsession.
And trying stuff out, and just talking to people.
You might
Actually,
have-
I'll stash that away, and then I might try that at some point down the road. Like, this is tough. I might try that thing Ben was talking about. You know, it might get me a fish one day.
Never know.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's all good stuff.
Just be the trouble.
Yeah,
Unpredictable.
that's it, man. Crack that code.
Yeah. Since you've started getting pretty heavily into the photography side of it, Dion, like how did that come about for you?
It's I guess over time, spending a lot of time out in the outdoors and sort of just doing the same thing, fishing, hunting, and all that sort of stuff. And it's like it does get a bit repetitive sometimes doing the same thing. So
Plus, you see some cool stuff.
that's it, eh? Like along the way, you sort of you see quite a lot of cool things out there that actually a lot of people don't get to see.
Yeah.
And I've sort of always had a passion for taking photos and stuff like that. Anyway, so ended up investing in some gear and stuff and just
Sold a kidney and bought a camera.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, basically it. Yeah. No,
Just one?
Camera or kidney?
Yeah, we just got out there and just played around and stuff, coming a long way. But I've also got a couple of mentors that sort of helping me along the way over in Tasmania. Finn Ripple Medias.
Oh, yeah.
Takes some great photos.
Yeah, he's Stephen. Yeah, he's helped me along the way actually. Sent him a few messages, and then that's just come along from there, and we're always learning like fishing and stuff like that. So.
Is that parallel to what we're talking about with you, bro? It's just like
Mm.
if you've got somebody you can ask,
Yeah.
just to kind of help you guide you in the right direction,
That's it.
and then he's just gone out and just put the time in.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty much the same with fishing.
Yeah. It is.
Get a little bit of a nudge in the right direction, and just go out there and just put the time in.
Yeah, nothing beats the time, mate.
No.
Like you can quicken the learning curve by getting good information and listening to people around if they're willing to share that knowledge. But you can't replicate time out there doing it.
Would have been the same in rugby. You got to go out there and do the drills,
that's
right?
it. Yeah,
But you got to go and do it again and again and again and again.
yeah, and then everyone does it a different way
Yeah.
too. Yeah, as much as we practice the same technique, it never looks.
Yeah.
You slow it right down, and never actually looks the same. Like we all do it our own little way, whether it's a pass or a kick or a cast or a mend or whatever it is. Eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The photography side of it too, I like to do a lot of that as well, and you have to really dedicate the time to do it. I mean, I've been in the boat saltwater fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, and there's 100-pound yellowfin launching out of the water all around the boat, and your buddies are just screaming, "Cast! Cast!" Like I'm trying to get some shots here, but to me now, I mean, to go out and fish and have a great day is great, but I kind of feel like if I get home and I'm not sitting on the couch and downloading images, and I don't get 2 or 3 really like, oh, that's sweet, I kind of almost feel like it wasn't as good a day. And it might not be a fish picture. It could be, a bit of a birder. I generally don't mention that in public, but if I don't get a cool pic or two, it's just like I feel like it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
So, and there's times when you're like, oh, I didn't bring the camera. It's like, yeah, of course I'm seeing this now. Man, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like once you want to try and take pictures or record what you're doing, or if you're doing that, then you can't fish. So it's very hard.
So you got to have that dedication
one or the other,
because you're not fishing when you're shooting
it's
photos.
difficult to try and combine the two when you do most of the stuff on your own.
Also, you start to carry a lot more stuff. your pack weighs a lot more.
Lenses and all sorts of stuff.
We did some shoots out in British Columbia, Stillwater, but also some river trout fishing. And I mean, I'm carrying 3 camera bodies, video tripods, 6 or 7 lenses, and the 80 to 200 lenses, the 500. I mean, you're carrying almost 100 pounds of gear, and we don't want to be around people. So a couple of places we were hiking 6-7 miles in, leaving the parking lot at 4 a.m. in the pitch dark, where they tell you to wear bears and wear bells and have bear spray because there's things that can eat you, and we're silently sneaking in because we want to see the elk, we want to see the bears and that kind of stuff. But so you have to have the dedication to carry all the gear around, but also the focus of, I see that brown sitting there and he's come up and eaten off the top 6 times, but I really want to get a couple pictures of X. So you're trying to focus, and that's hard to do when.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's been a lot of time out fishing, especially up here. Like you get river mouths around Lake Rotorua and stuff, and it's not uncommon to see 200-300 fish just sitting in the.
It's just a ridiculous thing to say.
Let's go with the allocate. Where was that spot again?
I mean, so in that regard, sort of, bugger. I'll just grab the camera and just get out there and just have a look around, and You capture the moment.
Similar kind of buzz though, like you were saying, when you get that shot or you get that scene, and you kind of it's money.
Yeah.
It's a real satisfying kind of buzz. Too,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're also learning too, because you're like, that's going to be awesome. You get back and it is so out of focus. It looks like there was a layer of Vaseline on the lens, and you thought you nailed it.
Yeah.
It was like that brown that came up to eat, and you just yanked it straight away from him.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I actually missed a couple of really good shots yesterday, and they're out of focus. Some nice big browns jumping right over there. But that's all part of the challenge.
Yeah, part of the learning. What did I do?
Yeah. Going back on settings and stuff and thinking, oh, should I have done this?
Was it a setting thing or was it a focus thing?
Oh man, the camera I've got has just got really fast autofocus, so you've sort of got to try and keep up with speed.
Yeah.
And picking, the right,
Thing to focus on.
the right focus lock and stuff. It's just, there's so many settings on it, it's just ridiculous.
Yep.
But it's nice to come back with good pictures. I told Dion I got buddies that call me the wedding photographer because they know if they go fishing with me, they're gonna get like a 30 photos that look like they had a wedding photographer with them taking pictures.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's fun to cut the head off your buddy when you caught a really big fish and only give him that picture for like the first day or two.
Yeah.
Let him stew on it. I had a buddy that knocked a big steelhead off with a net, and after almost a year of fishing him, he finally caught one, and he didn't know, but I took 2 pics, and this was before digital. This was film.
Yeah.
And the first pic I took was his head was cut off, and when I got him developed, I let him stew on that photo for 2 days. And when I gave him, we walked into work, we worked in a tackle shop, and I gave him the photo that his head wasn't cut off on. He's like, I get it now. I knocked that fish off. I have paid my penance. Thank you for the right one, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, I think outdoors, like people that enjoy the outdoors love being able to share that too, and I think, what technology has enabled us to do is to be able to bring that to more and more people. Like, social media is a good platform for that, being able to share, photography, YouTube, all those sorts of things is, it's pretty cool. And it's making more people interested and want to give it a go and get into it. So, it's a pretty cool way to be able to help.
Spread the word.
Yeah, and sort of show the true beauty of what you're actually doing out there. Like, every day you spend like on the river or, even out at sea, you generally see something pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like just about every single day. Like if you actually take it in, you're like, oh, whoa, never seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the more time you spend out there, the more you tune in and the more you see.
Yeah, we spoke about that even when you start a season off, like, being tuned in and seeing and spotting fish. Yeah.
Yeah, even like now, backcountry's about to open. Like that first couple of weeks or those first few trips always feel like a little bit, not uncomfortable, but you're not kind of in your flow. You put a pack on and you might do a big walk to get into somewhere, and because you're not used to, you haven't done that for a few months because it's just been local stuff.
Oh, I should have caught that fish.
Or even just like, okay, well, there's a 3 a.m. alarm to get up, to drive a couple of hours, to put a pack on, to walk a couple of hours just to get to the river. And you haven't done that for ages, so it all feels a bit like, oh, this is a bit weird. And then after a month or so of doing that regularly, then it's just kind of the norm again.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
After losing a bit of weight, getting to those spots.
Yeah. Lose that winter fluff. But there's nothing better than like if you've been fishing hard for 6 or 8 weeks, and you just kind of, it's just you're in the zone, getting up and getting to the river and walking around and spotting things and just like you're just tuned in. It's great.
Yeah.
It's real good.
I've got a spot in Michigan that I've been exploring on Lake Huron, and I'm getting up at sometimes 2:15.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't go to bed. I should play through, but I sleep for a couple hours, get up, go, and buddies are like, and it's 2 hours and 40 minutes there. It's $120, $130 in gas there and back, and guys like, you're nuts. And then you show them some pictures, and you're like, now I understand. When do I get to go? And it's like, it's just, it's not always around the corner, and and this area is just one of those where I've been fishing a long time, but totally never been anything like that, and just spending the time to, okay, this area looks good, and covering a lot of water, and just every time you're trying to solve the Rubik's Cube when you go into a new area and figure it out. And sometimes it's awesome and sometimes it doesn't work, but it's like, if you've got that it's never going to happen if you don't get up at 2:30 in the morning and load your boat up with stuff and go and explore it. You're definitely not going to have that day, and you won't catch any fish sitting on the couch. And I hate sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
I'd rather hike and work than to do that. And those that don't, you don't get to experience all that cool stuff. So you don't know what you're going to see on a given day.
Yeah, and even when you go somewhere and you check, if you've never been there before, you go there and you don't find anything, well, you've still learned something.
Yeah, don't go there again.
Go there again.
That was stupid.
Or maybe like it's a time of the year thing. Maybe you have to go back there in summer, or when the weather's warmer, or the water level's lower.
Yeah.
So then you go back there again, check it out then before I write it off.
Yeah. Make that note that I should probably check this 6 weeks from now.
And going back to the social media thing, a lot that's what you don't see. You see a picture of like Dion with a big brown trout. People just think that's what happens every time I want that. But what they don't see is the days and the weeks and all the money that goes into looking around other places, not finding things, checking out this. Maybe this looked good on the maps, but didn't actually find anything there. Got to here, couldn't find any access. Went to here, didn't find any fish. You don't see the days and days of that. All you see is a picture of someone with a big fish.
Totaled out the truck on a deer on the way.
Yeah.
That happens where I live. One of our guys hit a bear.
Jeez.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there's a lot that can go into. I mean, let's be honest. Every time Dion goes out, he catches a bunch of giant brown trout. But
that's right.
It doesn't always happen for all of us. There's a lot that can go into it.
But you gotta. Yeah, it's not easy like that. Yeah, especially those more remote places, where you'll spend years working stuff out, like around your local area and stuff like that. You spend years working those rivers out, and then somebody flicks you a message and goes, "Oh, where's that, bro?" I'm gonna tell you that. You've got to go out there and discover it for yourself. That's part of what we do.
Yeah, Google Earth is pretty amazing. You can do a lot and spend a lot of time just. Whether it's rivers or for me, it's looking for certain shoreline on the Great Lakes and, okay, make a note of that. Now, where's the launch at? What's the weather going to be? Because some of the spots we fish, if I run straight offshore, it's 130 miles before I hit land again. In freshwater?
Freshwater.
Yeah, so you have to, there's a lot of things that need to come together and you've got to do your research. But yeah.
That's just to go and have a look.
Yeah, and you might make that drive and the 4 weather forecasting services you pay for were all wrong and it's blowing 30 and the waves are like 8 foot and you're like, well, I guess I'll go to the cool little pub in town and grab a burger and start making my way home. But it is what it is. But that to me, that exploring part of it is just, and again, the learning part of it is just so cool. It's like, okay, this is totally new water and
start from scratch.
I'd never seen this before. I didn't know this area was here. And again, if you're on the photography side, I've got GoPros out and the iPhones are crazy now, and my DSLRs and shooting pictures, and it's fun putting some of those up. And people are like, "That looks like the Bahamas." I'm like, "No, the water's like 5 degrees Celsius. There's no swimming here." But
yeah, I suppose it's so good for the human mind, like the process and learning and working things out, and like an active mind is, what sort of keeps us alive, really. Like as soon as you shut it off, then you don't really sort of live for anything,
That's my happy space.
Yeah.
Spend as much time in that happy space as possible.
I'd rather do that than sit down and solve a Sudoku puzzle or put a 5,000 piece puzzle together.
Yeah.
I'd rather puzzle it out in the woods, and maybe I don't solve it, but still, maybe it keeps me from getting too fat, and I learn some new spots. And
it's definitely good for the head.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Or maybe a bear or a cougar.
Yeah, not here,
but
you're good here. There's only one kind of cougar in New Zealand. Just as dangerous, man.
They can be.
Sometimes they have more teeth.
Not in Vegas.
I got mauled by a cougar on a flight from Detroit to Minneapolis.
What?
Yeah. She drank a whole bottle of wine, and when I posted about it, my aunt was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And my cousin had to explain what a cougar was. No, it's a different kind of cougar.
just been mauled by a cougar.
Yeah.
As a competitive fly fisherman, though, you must be a real process-driven person. Like, you talk about cracking the code, like trying to work things out. Has that always been sort of the way you are as a person, or is it just fishing that brings that out?
I suppose like when I do come to like a backcountry brown or something like that, and I haven't got it to eat, I will sometimes muck around for an hour on this one fish just because I'm like, you're gonna take something, man. Like,
Yeah.
what is it? And when it does pay off and you finally get to eat, like 10 flies later, that's just incredibly satisfying.
Yeah.
But I'd like it to have been like 2 flies.
One
Yeah.
fly. One fly's good.
Yeah.
The one you tied on
Yeah.
at the house that morning. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's not always that way though.
I think learning, like always having that adapting and learning and become like upskilling.
Yeah.
I love that about it.
Mm.
Working out the puzzle.
Yeah. Do you find you're that way, like in life, and like with a lot of things in life as well?
Yeah, I think like with even with my trade, I'm like fit a turn and I love like learning a new machine and just have that mind always like engaged with something new.
Yeah.
That's always pretty cool. So yeah, it probably is a little bit.
Yeah, because that's
as
what.
well.
Yeah, that's what I kind of found. Because all I did from the age of 17 until 2 years ago was play professional rugby, and then I obviously had hobbies outside of that, hunting and fishing and whatnot. But what I found, why I enjoyed rugby so much was the whole process of learning a game plan or learning a new skill. But like even just in the context of a week, like there's a whole process to achieve a goal. And then you're like, okay, we're playing this team, they defend like this, they attack like this. If we defend like this, if we attack like this, if we implement these skills, then we can get an outcome here and we can win. And then you work through the whole week, you do all that preparation, you hone your skills in, then you go out and then you either achieve the goal or you don't, but you learn something. And it might be like, oh shit, we thought that would have actually stopped their attack, but it actually made them a shitload better. But it's like that whole process thing, and then you sort of turn the page and start again. And I think for me, like rugby, especially playing professional rugby in New Zealand, like it teaches you to be courageous, because you're under so much scrutiny all the time. So I think for me going to the river, I was intimidated, but I've been in that situation a lot in my life, and I had to do it every week and play on live TV, and then you go to the supermarket and some grandma was like, oh, you played like shit last night. And most of the time she's right, and you're like, but it's just, that's the sort of society I kind of grew up in. So like for me, it's everything I've kind of, I guess, all kind of gravitated towards is all like process based. And I think that's why I love fly fishing so much, because it's such a process. Like there's so much to it. Like you talk about, even a rod setup, there's like, you can't just go and put any line on a rod. There's got to be, lines are fit for purpose, and then they match to a weight of a rod, and then that rod's suited for that river, but it won't be for that one. And then if you're trying to chuck, big indicator, well, that ain't going to work, but it'll work if you're throwing a small dry or whatever it may be. These are all things that I'm sort of learning along the way. And
I guess it'll be the same with
process.
rugby too, as you have those processes, but then you'll also have to adapt in the moment. Which is, I guess, there's going to be a similar kind of parallel between the two as well, right?
Well, because you spend so much. Obviously, the longer you spend in the sport, the more skills and the more pictures you see, and you're like, okay, all right, I've seen this before. Yeah. This is different than what we prepared for, but last time I saw this, I did this, and it worked. And then you try, and you're like, oh, there we go. That presentation. Put that a little mental note away, or go home, write it down. Whatever, and just that real, and that's what I found a lot, like with the podcast, a lot of the successful people that I've been lucky enough to speak to, they're all real process driven people, and they love trying to work things out, and they're not claiming to be experts, but because they're always open-minded and they're willing to adapt and learn, and look to get that perfect shot, that perfect photo, or to cast that perfect, into that perfect spot to get that fish to eat. Like it's that whole process.
Yeah, we've got to have that drive too, right? Behind all of that, there's got to be like an underlying drive to just kind of keep going.
Try system.
Yeah.
Thankfully, unlike rugby, a brown trout's never going to smash your face in the side.
And you won't get a grandma.
He'll do it anyway. I saw you on the river last week. You fished like shit.
I watched your YouTube video last
I don't know why you used that nymph. It was horrible. That was a terrible decision.
Worst you'll get is a few teeth in the old fingers.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah.
Or you slam a cast on him and he leaves the pool, which I guess would be like getting your face smashed into the ground.
What else have we? Oh, here we go. So we started off with best bit of kit starting out. What about now? So what's your number one piece of kit that you put the most value on that you have in your arsenal? Could be a couple if you can't narrow it to one.
That's tough. I mean, I think on a daily basis, once you've been in it for a while, you've got the rods, reels, you probably have your lines dialed in. It's fly presentation is pretty key.
Yeah. So the skill of getting it.
You can as you're learning, you can be gaining all those skills there. But you can make the right presentations. But if you don't noodle through exactly what fly to use in a particular situation, I think on a daily basis, that's the thing that I'm adjusting the most to be successful in wherever it is that I'm fishing. The rest of it almost doesn't matter at that point. As you're gaining those skills, okay, you can cast. You've got the right leader. You're able to make a soft presentation, or maybe I'm trying to get my fly to hit the water hard to get some attention, but if it's not the right one, kind of none of the rest of it matters. And that's kind of probably the thing that I'm adjusting the most, that's going to make it a successful day or a less successful day as you get deeper into it.
Maybe a pair of sunnies, good pair of sunnies.
Yeah.
Especially here,
sight fishing, for sure.
Sight fishing. So if you can't see the fish, you can't. No matter what you've got, what kind of rod you've got, what kind of fly, if you can't see it, you can't catch it.
Yeah.
So that could be one. Good pair of sunnies.
Good pair of sunnies.
Also, you don't want to fly in your eye.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always wearing them. I've had a couple close calls. I had a conventional lure come back and shatter they were shatterproof, but they broke, but they didn't. But if I didn't have glasses on, I probably would have lost my sight. And it was just one of those split second things. I had a buddy that took a split shot in the eye when a salmon jumped and spit the hook, and he was loaded up on a 9-weight, and it caught him right in the corner, and he did not lose his sight, but it was pretty close. But I've met some people in industry that did. They lost sight in an eye because a fly came back or what have you. I've certainly had plenty of friends that have put them in me. Yay, marvelous.
Yeah, another win for the bar.
Yeah, you don't want to hook me because I'll spool you. You'll never. And I know all the stuff to run into to break you off. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys here sight fish.
Yeah,
I mean, that's to me kind of the quintessential thing to do when you come to New Zealand is you want to go find the fish and try and catch it. If you're blind casting still, you should still be wearing good pair of Polaroids.
Yeah, for sure.
And they do make a difference. Different color lenses, like offshore, the guys are wearing blue.
Yeah.
Why blue offshore?
Just more, it knocks the glare down more.
Oh, okay.
So because it's so much brighter typically. And then if you're on the flats for kingies or you're in the river, I really like an amber or even a kind of a little bit of a rose color. Just better definition.
Yeah, they're super good in like low light.
Yeah.
They're good. Hey, what do you run? Copper? Smoke?
I think it's coppery.
Yeah, copper's a good color.
Smoke is kind of good for like everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And let's just put it on the table. Mirrored orange is only for motocross. Okay. It's not for fishing.
Yeah. What about for you?
Most important piece of kit.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, man.
That's what she said.
Yeah, feel free to eat too.
It could be like
If it's
flies.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I don't know.
Flies, yeah.
Flies are quite important.
Yeah. Well, I suppose for you,
just
talking about what you spoke about before, that range of flies for that, because you need to crack the code and you got to crack it quick if you're in a competition, so you don't have time to come sort it out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like you need to sort it out there and now, so you need that variety, I guess.
How helps to have like every situation sort of covered in
Yeah.
the fly box.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, there's been plenty of times when I've not had that
Yeah.
and regretted it.
Yeah.
So go back to the vice,
Mm.
go back to that spot and have one in there.
Yeah.
You end up.
They always want to eat the fly that you only have one of, and then they've destroyed it to the point where now you don't have another one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how
Or
they
like
know
me,
that,
you
but
catch
they do.
fish on it, and then the next cast you put it in a tree, and then
No, I don't cast into trees, man.
oh, don't you?
No,
You that good?
Never do it.
Just got to learn how to climb trees. That's all.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
quite like having like on stillwater fishing, especially like having like a whole bunch of lines to cover everything.
Oh
It's
yeah.
always handy.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money, but I know I've got every situation covered,
Yeah.
which is
So that'd
Yeah.
be everything from like a floater to an intermediate to like a die 3, die 6.
yeah, everything in between from like floater down to like a sink 5, sink 7, I think.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
The-
my
met?
heaviest.
The comp thing is definitely different because like most of the guys in the UK that are fishing the comps, they've got a bag with cassettes, and they might have 30, 35
Oh.
cassettes.
Yeah.
On an average day, the stillwater trout fishing that I do in Michigan, I've got a minimum of 15 reels on the boat because I'm going to be fishing anywhere from a 4 to a 7 weight, depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be fishing anything from surface down to our sink 5-7 with a leech pattern, and I'm getting down 26, 28 feet. And what happens is first thing in the morning, you'll have a midge hatch maybe, so you're fishing dry flies.
Mm.
Then that sun starts to come up, maybe you get a little bit of wind, now that's over with, but you're catching them on buzzers or leeches just under the surface. And then as that sun starts to come up, those fish start to work their way down in depth. And then during a little bit later in the year, like getting towards summer. And then once that sun starts to go down, those fish are starting to come up again. So you could have the right fly on, but you're 20 feet below them or 20 feet over the top of them typically. And if you don't have a variety of lines to do that, then you're not necessarily going to be in the fish all day. You'll whale on them in the morning or you'll get them right before dark, but you're not catching them midday. So you can get pretty high, wide, and deep and a little overwhelming, and it can certainly get expensive if you're, I mean, Dion, he's specializing in the sight stuff, so you're primarily floater or intermediate,
Intermediate, yeah.
Oh
and
yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah.
Because for what he's doing, you don't want to sink past the fish, but if you need to be catching fish all day, especially comp fishing, if those fish are down 25 feet, you got to catch them.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could almost not, you can't not have too many. It's impossible to have too many lines in the boat sometimes when you're lake fishing. River fishing, not the case. Floater and maybe an intermediate typically.
Generally just
For
a
most
floater.
stuff. Yeah.
I guess you could have a sinker line if you were going to be stripping streamers.
Yeah, if you're fishing big water, but other than that, you can do it all with a floater.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you put a short sink leader on
Yeah.
and do it all.
Yeah.
And then if the guy wants to try and fish Caraway, one of the river mouths, that lake line, floating lake line, is a perfectly good line for going and doing that too and trying it too. So it's not like you gotta, I'd love to do that, but I gotta go invest a whole bunch of money. You can take your 6-way rod and go do that.
Yeah.
A 6-way to be a little in the gun if you're trying to catch a kingfish.
Oh,
It'd be entertaining.
yeah. And you'd be undergunned a little bit there. But yeah, I guess it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like Jeff was saying, like Dion and I, we generally sight fishing for particular fish. So all you need is a floating line. That's it. You know, and everything else is to do with then leader setup and where you're positioned and how you're going to approach it. But as far as actual tackle goes, just pretty much one thing does everything, eh?
Yeah.
You know, floating line, maybe an intermediate if you're doing a lake edge, and that's it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of the stuff we sort of fish is generally shallow.
Or high up in the water.
Yeah, or high up in the water, so it's just
Or sitting on an edge. It was sitting in 3 feet of water.
Yeah.
You know.
So, yeah, it's just that's what you need, really.
Yeah. What's your one bit of kit you don't leave without? Your
My
camera?
rod.
Oh, your rod?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Everyone else's line flies, but they all left their rods at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a floating line, I reckon.
Yeah.
That'd be probably the main one.
like
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
versatile. Yeah. So you can cater for multiple sort of situations you might encounter.
Yeah.
I guess that comes back to when you're setting up as a beginner and that kind of thing. Like, you're not going to be buying multiple lines. So I guess you'd be better off. Like Ben said, the most versatile thing is floating line.
Yeah.
You can pretty much do everything with a floating line. And like Jeff said, if you do need to get something down deep, you can buy sinking tips. You can attach to your floating line, which will get your fly down a little bit deeper in certain situations. So, especially, if you're going to be dropping a bit of money on a good line like we talked about at the beginning, make it floating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much nothing you can't do with that.
A
Yeah.
decent floating line.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're first getting into it, you don't need to dive deep and have 7 different rods and reels and a whole bunch of different lines. You can generally, people that are getting into it, especially for trout, they're gonna, maybe they really only want to dry fly fish, but if there's no hatch or the wind's blowing like crazy and they're watching fish down deeper, then you're gonna nymph in that. But you can get one line that'll kind of do everything, so you don't need to go out. And we had somebody at one of our events who's like, I really don't have the cash to buy one line. I bought a decent rod, got an okay reel, and it's like, you only need one for trout. Well, but sometimes I swing streamers to some of the river mouths. Well, that's fine, but for $18, you can buy that sinking leader that you attach to your fly line, and now the 3 times a year that you're doing that, you can do it. You don't need to dedicate $120 or $150 or whatever it is on a sinking line that you might only fish twice a year. So
No.
When you're talking about having like 15 different reels on the boat and then fishing through those different water columns during the day, how long will you give it before changing? Okay, you're whaling on them in the morning, and then it goes a bit quiet. How long do you give it before you change your weight to go down deeper?
You kind of watching what's going on. 2 of the lakes that I fish, the water's very clear. So if the fish are within 15 feet of the surface, I will see fish cruising by. So first thing in the morning, they'll actually swim right by the boat. But I'm seeing fish rising, and it's casting to fish eating dry flies in the lake. It's the most frustrating thing in the world, because in the river, he's in the current and that fish has a lie and it's staying there. And when he rises, it's might move a foot or 2, but that fish in the lake rises and it can change direction 30 times before you get a cast in the water. So unless it can be, if you can't see them, it can be really frustrating. So we'll start out maybe in the morning catching them on dries, and then as you're seeing fewer and fewer rises, then they're probably dropped a bit. Typically, there's a lot of them. A lot of times we'll see them, and they're still in maybe the top 5 feet or so. So it might be a chronomid pattern or a tractor style woolly bugger or something. And what we would usually see is now maybe you catch a fish every 5 or 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it slacks off. Well, now those fish have gone deeper. I've also got sonar and side scan that I can turn on the boat, and I can see that now all of a sudden the fish are down 16, 18 feet, and they're fairly active, or my screen is void. So they've either moved to where there's a hatch happening on the lake, or they're on a pot of bait, and you move around a little bit, and all of a sudden you find out they're sulking in like 45 feet of water on the bottom. We can still catch them that way, but it's just a matter of if you're getting any takes at all, and then, okay, well, I know it's getting later, so I'm going to go deeper, and maybe you're not going quite deep enough, or you're not running the right fly. Some days they really want to, most of the lakes I'm fishing, they'll eat a leech pretty good because there's a ton of them in the lake. Some days they really want a maroon one. Some days they absolutely want what we call a pumpkin, which is olive with a little orange bead on it. Other days it needs to look like a tiny leech, super thin, very finesse, and you just gotta kind of start changing flies if you know you're in the zone and waiting for the fish to tell you that you've put the right fly on. But the stillwater thing can be a bit frustrating, and if you only have like 1 or 2 lines, it can be really frustrating because you can be so far away from the fish, and that temperature stratifies, and they may not want to move up 6 feet to eat a fly because that water's too warm. So if that thermocline's down 20 feet, those fish want to stick at, or depending on the species of trout, below it. So you need to get to them, and if you got a floater, it's a long leader. Now in BC, the guys are actually fishing 25 feet sometimes below an indicator. And they'll just bomb an indicator out, put the rod down, pop a beer and start eating a sandwich, and you're talking to your buddy, you're like, hey, where's your indicator? Oh, and they start stripping, and the indicator's been down. The trout ate it 10 minutes ago, and they have a type of indicator that when you put pressure on it, the pin pops out and it slides down to the fish, so you're able to fish these really long leaders. The fun part is when you get it near the boat, because now this big orange thing is popping the trout in the face, and they really don't like that. So they tend to get a little squirrely around the boat, but you just kind of let the fish tell you when they've moved on and they're deeper or what have you, and you just have to start switching stuff around or flip the sonar on, and you'll see what depth they're at, and then now you know you're at the right depth if you have the right line, and then you got to figure out what fly they're going to eat if they're going to eat anything. So sometimes they just shut off completely and don't eat at all, which is.
You can apply that to rivers too, though. Like as far as like if you're not seeing fish or you're not finding fish or hooking fish, you can then, as long as you know your flies are in the right kind of zone, then you can start changing through fly patterns. And then if you think, okay, well, I know I'm fishing deep enough, I know I'm heavy enough, I've tried a few patterns here, you're still not finding anything, you're not getting eats, well then maybe you're going to move. There could be, like Tonga at the moment, there seems to be pods of fish spread out through rather than fish all the way through. So you might fish a piece of water really what you think is well and thoroughly, do some fly changes, cover everything well, cover all the different pieces of water you expect fish to be in, and if you're not finding them, get moving. Go to another piece of water and then start again, work your way through. Make sure you're fishing deep enough, heavy enough, change your flies until you start finding fish. So same kind of principle as what Jeff was just talking about, but you're on foot in the river. So a lot of people will just stick with the same rig, stick with the same fly, stay in the same place, and just flog the water, and then go, man, there's no fish in this river. Well, there might not be any fish there, or maybe you're not deep enough, or maybe they don't like the flies you've got on, so you've got to kind of just keep chopping and changing and kind of working things out.
Maybe it worked last time, eh? So
Yeah.
Change it.
Yeah, just because it worked yesterday doesn't mean to say it's going to work today. It's that fickle.
That's not your number plate.
No.
No one even fished 2 number plate?
Nah.
I don't know what I was looking at.
See? No, what?
No, sorry, man. It's taken that.
Is there one fish that stands out that you've caught?
Species or fish?
No, like a fish.
Charlie.
Oh, Charlie. Oh man, see that's a tough one too because there's certain fish of certain species that stick out.
Oh yeah.
And for different reasons too. It doesn't even have to be because it was the biggest or anything like that. But
Circumstances.
Yeah, circumstances. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. The situation, the heat, the look of the fish. Just. Oh, so yeah, that's a tough one. I couldn't give you one.
Nah.
Oh, that's so tough.
It is.
You missed 160 species.
Yeah.
There's a whole other podcast.
There was this one wrasse in the Philippines. It was a real bugger.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Have you got one?
I got one pretty good memory of I love brown trout. Pretty cunning up some of the little backcountry spots I go, so you don't get many chances, and it was a pretty big one and got it, so yeah, that'll be in the memory banks for a while.
What was it that made it stick out though?
Yeah.
Was it the fish itself or was it the
It's just the spot. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Hard fishing.
hard to get to?
It's not that hard to get to, but the fishing is hard.
Yeah.
They're real hard.
Way more rewarding when you're gonna earn it, eh?
Yeah. It's a spot I've been to before and fished for an hour.
Yeah.
And finally got them, so there's not many of them up there, but
They're good.
yeah, when I caught this one, it was pretty big, so, and just super rewarding.
Yeah.
Never forget it.
Yeah.
Probably for me, one would be bow and arrow casting to a 12-pound brown. And it was only, probably barely a rod length from where I was.
Oh, wow.
And I was watching and I was just sitting there. Big Jake.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. One that would stick out.
I think I remember that picture.
Yeah, you probably do.
Yeah. That was a
Yeah. Boozy scrap.
tank of
It's
The
not bad, actually, to
person
be
with the
honest.
vehicle in the trailer
Oof.
in the car park with the license plate fish 2. Please move it. Cheers.
You're in a lot of trouble, whoever that is.
Yeah.
Mum, shut up.
I told you I'd move it in a minute.
We're doing a
podcast.
Shut up.
It's hard to narrow it down to one, but one I think I'll remember is I was not fly fishing all that long. And we were blessed where I grew up on the western end of Lake Ontario, New York State, to have ungodly big brown trout, like almost canal size proportion, just really weird size. Just they eat so much in the lake. And we had a couple rivers that they would come to spawn in, and they were fairly small, but I'm still trying to crack the code and figure it out. I was a horrific caster, but I could manage a little bit. And there was one spot where I knew there had to be fish at a river mouth, and I spent 5 days on and off as I had time in there, and every day the wind was howling out of the north, which meant big surf coming. It was raining sideways. It's 5 degrees below freezing, and it was just miserable. And my buddy's like, "You're an idiot. Why are you doing this?" Because he fished the one day with me, and 5 hours of swinging in the current there and absolutely nothing. And on the 5th day, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to fish for another couple weeks, and I'm an idiot. I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. And it was not literally last cast, but pretty close to it. And I'm swinging a woolly bugger, and I feel a bump, and I had hung on something, and I thought it was just hung. So I lifted the rod up and did this, and I felt a head shake. So I strip set on it, and I watched all of my fly line and about 120 yards of backing just dump. And thankfully there was nothing in the lake that could tangle in because it's out in Lake Ontario. So I'm kind of freaked out because I figured it was probably a decent fish. And then I saw it come up, and it was so fat it couldn't jump. So it rolled once, and there was another guy on the other side of the river. He walked up the bank, crossed the bridge, and came down to help me. And it's the biggest brown that I've ever caught. It was 24 and a half pounds.
This is ridiculous.
On a 7 weight.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was, its girth probably matched its length.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like that first time that I paid my dues. I mean, I should have had pneumonia and died from those 5 days because it was absolutely miserable. But just put the time in, and maybe I just spending that much time there, I found the one dumb one that the rest of them, my fly was going past and they weren't eating. But that to me was like, all right, I paid my dues. I figured it out. Now I'm doing the stuff that I'm doing is worth it, and freezing my butt off and feeling like I'm going to lose my fingers and the hiking around and that kind of stuff. That was sort of the light bulb moment of, okay, this is really cool. I'm probably not going to catch another one this big again, but I mean, it was, and I got measurements on it. The guy had a scale. We weighed it in his net, and I let it go because I don't like the taste of trout, which I know is not the popular opinion here in New Zealand. I know a lot of folks like to eat their fish, but I let that fish go.
Little fish like that. That's a special fish.
But yeah, and I couldn't imagine whacking one like that on the head. So, but yeah, that was kind of my aha moment of this was cool. I enjoyed it, but
And you earned it.
if you really work hard for it, once in a while you're gonna be able to get that carrot that you've been reaching for. So
yeah, it's nice when you see that happen too, when someone like works for something like that, because every now and then people will just go out and pull it off.
that was my
first
first
day.
cast ever.
Yeah.
This is
You
easy.
see that a lot. You're
Yeah.
like, oh.
You ever caught a blue mullet? Yeah, it was like 900 pounds. Is that big?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. No, that happens a fair bit. We talked about a little bit earlier, like in the smoker room, and I suppose it's something that I guess I kind of knew about the sport, but there was like a bit of an old school kind of mentality and a few sort of grumpy old buggers on the river, but there's been like a real, I guess, kind of shift in that. Like I haven't come across anything. I guess I've kind of like heard about it, and you're saying it's not only here in New Zealand, it can be sort of
All over
a
the world.
global kind of
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that is there anything you kind of put that down to in your travels, or?
I don't know. It just like we ran into a guy at the canal the other day that was pretty grumpy, and we're kind of made the comment, "There's rednecks everywhere." It doesn't matter. No matter where. I've met a lot of amazing people all over the world, but we've definitely run into the curmudgeon here and there at different clubs, whether it's in the UK, Australia, lots in the US, and it's frustrating. It's a little disheartening because it's like, I get you don't maybe want to give up your spot, but you've been fly fishing for a long time. It doesn't make you better than anybody else. Sometimes I see a bit of that attitude. I do it all. I'm conventional as well. I fish with spinning gear, and I don't go to confessional after I do it.
You're going to hell then.
Yeah. It wasn't for that.
Yeah.
And I just, that attitude is frustrating because I know guys that walleye and bass fish by me that are interested in the fly side of it, but they've gone into a shop and they've gotten that attitude, and it immediately just, they wanted nothing to do with it after that. And you try and coax them in, but it's not necessarily just a fly thing. There's folks I know that are on the bass side of things that fish bass tournaments, and they have a bit of attitude to them where they'll pull up to a lake and you're fishing and they're like, hey, I'm fishing a tournament, you need to move. And it's like, well, you should have got here before me then. You wanted to fish this spot. I'm sorry. But so it isn't just that, but I think there is definitely a true stereotype to some degree, no matter where you are in the world, that the fly shop, you walk in and the guys are having coffee at the counter and they don't even acknowledge your presence. This is your first time coming in. You're maybe wanting to ask some questions, and now you're kind of intimidated because they didn't even acknowledge you. So, I don't know how you get around that. I think what we're finding with the age of some of the folks in the club, that some of them are dying. They're aging out, if you will. And we need younger folk in there. I certainly have met a lot of people that, they'll give you the shirt off their back to help you catch a fish, or that they'll give you the secret spot, especially since they know you don't live there, because you're not going to jack on their fish all the time. You might fish it once and then you're in another continent. But there's a lot of really good folks out there, but man, it only takes one or two bad experiences for somebody that's just getting into the sport that they're sour. And now those of us that want to get more people in, you have to work that much harder to get them in. And I think I mentioned earlier, it's fun going out and catching a bunch of fish, but I absolutely love getting people in the boat or getting them on the river and getting them into fish and just watching how excited they are. And that to me is better than me going out and catching a big fish. And and everybody in this room is the same way, but we need a few more of those people, because we need to get the kids away from the PlayStation and all that stuff and get them out on the water. Because the ones that do that are also the ones that are going to care about. We saw a whole bunch of trash the other day, and it's like I spent a lot of time picking up garbage. Where I'm fishing, I'm always loading a backpack with garbage and carrying it out, and it's just like if the people aren't spending time in the environment, they don't necessarily care about that. So, but you see it everywhere. I don't care what country you go to, you'll get the grumpy old folks that, and not necessarily old folks, but just a bit of arrogance there. And unfortunately, it really can turn people off from the sport.
Kind of like you were saying with you were mentoring the younger guys coming into the rugby side of things. If people do more of that in the fishing, then hopefully they stay in the fishing, and then they'll be inclined to do the same when they see people coming through. So
you remember who took you under their wing?
Yeah, you've almost got to. We all laugh, but you've almost got to kind of wait for that old school mentality to kind of disappear, and then hopefully replace it with people with better attitudes. And most people are pretty good, like you say, but I don't know how you get around it.
Just try
Yeah.
on to someone else, because there's probably more good people out there.
There's more people willing to help you than the ones that aren't willing to help.
Yeah. Just changing that mindset. We kind of touched on that a bit earlier. It's the same with but as far as the mindset thing goes, like when it comes to fish handling, fish care, that kind of thing. Like there's some shocking stuff. I don't know what it's like in other countries. Again, I can only just speak from what I've seen here. But there's some shocking stuff in New Zealand about how people treat and handle fish. It's really bad.
Yeah. You did a video just recently on that,
Yeah, that's right.
I've actually seen other guys from social media putting these sort of shocking habits online for people to see, and it's sending the wrong message.
Yeah.
It's great to get a good picture of a fish, but I've tried to instill that in folks on our side, and it's have all your camera gear ready. Whoever's going to hold the fish, they need to know exactly what's going to happen, so that like I know with Alex, it's the fish is in the net, he's ready, boom, the fish is up, 1 second, it's back in the water. You might do that one more time to get a different angle on it, and then it's off. Not the fish is laying in the net up on dry ground while you're fumbling around for your camera and your buddy's trying to get his rod together, and the whole time, I mean, that fish ran a marathon and now it's out of the water. And there's times like middle of summer when we're catching some pretty big lake trout out on Lake Michigan. That fish comes up, it's in the water, it's unhooked, and it's gone. We don't take pictures. Summertime muskie, no pictures are taken. Those fish are never taken out of the water. And once the water hits a certain temperature, I don't care how good the fishing is, we're not fishing for them because you're going to kill those fish.
Yeah.
The hero shots on social are great, but not if that fish is, oh, well, I released it and it was great. Well, yeah, you released it and it's rolling down the river and it's dead because you needed one picture on Insta because you wanted these two companies to maybe sponsor you or something. And that's the frustrating part is the fish is number one priority. And it's not hard to take good care of that fish and to make sure it's in good shape when you let go of it and that it swims off safe. But some folks, they just, unfortunately, they don't care about that. And it absolutely, that's the one thing that I will say to some people when they're on the river.
So then the question then becomes is we say the answer is probably education.
Yep.
But then for people that don't give a shit, they don't want to be educated because they don't care. So how do you get around that?
Yeah.
How do you I guess it comes with people like yourself just coming into the sport. It's important that they get the right message and also guidance in this is why this is important, this is why you should do this, and this is how you do this. This is how you do it well. But I don't know if you can change the mindset of the people that are already in it and don't care. Because you've got to want to care to then want to change.
Yeah.
So I don't know the way around that. I've thought about it heaps. I don't know what it is. So I guess it's got to come with the new people coming into the sport and this is what they learn. But then who's teaching that? Like Dion said, there's a lot of socials, probably more stuff out there on social media with less than ideal practices than the other way around.
Yeah.
So if they're coming in and they're liking this, this guy's got so many followers and this is what he does, it must be okay. I don't know how to get around that.
Yeah.
And even in behind the photos you see and stuff from guys on social media, it just makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes, like how many photos they're taking and what they're doing with the fish and stuff like that. So.
You see it all the time, mate. Just people just sitting there like with a fish, and they're messing around, trying to take pictures, fumbling around with the camera, and at no point is there ever any thought of that fish needing to go back in the water, or it's just. And then they spend ages trying to revive it before it swims off and you're just like, it's not good.
Some just pass it off downstream and that's just floating off downstream.
Yeah. And then you'll have I've also had not the opposite end of that, but where you'll have a picture and somebody will jump on you and say that they know nothing about the situation. They're like, I can't believe, hashtag keep them wet, which is important, but it's like, you're telling me I'm killing fish. That particular fish that you're mad about was literally out of the water for 1 second. The water is 4 degrees above freezing. That fish honestly could lay on the carpet of my boat for a minute before there was an issue. But you'll have some people that'll try and shame on the other side, and rightfully so with some, because they're sitting there talking about how great this fish is, and can you believe he ate this? And it's like 2 minutes, and that fish is just
gagging
in the air, and but some will go overboard the other direction. I've had a couple people a couple times that have taken a shot over the bow because you have a fish that's out of the water for a picture, and it's like, not for nothing, but I'm not going to waste any time on you.
You see it in the canals all the time, just fish brought up to the road line. Guys taking photos up by the road and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're 10 meters away from the river trying to take a picture with a fish, that's not good.
Nah.
You're not supposed to bread your fish with gravel on both sides before you let it go.
Even stuff like fish laying up on the beach on the sand, see them cut like it's just, how's that a good idea? How do anyone think that's a good thing to do? Flapping around on rocks, it's just, some of the stuff you see is terrible. So I don't know. I mean, I'd love to work out how to start changing that, but I don't know what the answer is now.
Yeah.
That's sort of a newer generation coming through as well.
Yeah.
Guys coming through social media. We're seeing the other guys going out with the old pale, stale male mentality from back in the days, but then we're getting these new guys coming
Different
through.
problem now, isn't it?
That's a different problem. Now, so, yeah, that's going to be a challenge to try and address, I
Yeah. I suppose it's that education
think.
aspect of it, eh? And,
That's
but
right.
then it's also a hard thing because social media is not, it's hard to police it, right? So you're saying these guys out there that have got, big followings and they're doing less than ideal practices, people come in, they're like, oh, well, he does it. And he's like,
super
he's the
popular.
man because
Yeah.
he's got all of these followers. So it's just making sure that, I suppose we make the awareness that you can make. And
Yeah, just so I don't know what the answer is because I mean social media could be a very good tool for it, and it is, but it kind of works both ways.
yeah.
Some people feel the pressure of I gotta have these pictures.
Yeah.
So we've had some guys in the States that have been busted for fishing closed season, closed areas because they have to get that picture of that bull trout, that really big bull in spawning colors that's going to score them finally with the two sponsors they're looking to get. But season's closed. If you accidentally catch one, it is no retention at all. The one thing that drives me nuts that I see a fair bit of in the States is big tarpon completely out of the water, like in the boat. I saw a picture from an outfitter the other day, and it's horrible for the fish, but it's also you're putting your client at risk. There's 3 guys holding a 160-pound tarpon in a center console boat. It takes 1 second for that fish to kick. Your customer's down, his arm's broken. You're in a place that they're going to put leeches on him to make him feel better. There's no good hospital there. So you're putting everybody at risk, and it's like, okay, I get it. It's a big fish. It's 180 pounds, 150 pounds, whatever, and it's really hard to get a good picture in the water. And if you can't, like sturgeon, some of the stuff we do in British Columbia, there's always riffle gravel right there, so you can hop in the water
with the fish.
You're letting it revive. You get some really cool pictures, and off it goes. But you shouldn't sacrifice the health of the fish for
A picture.
that one picture that you've really been wanting. There's times where I've had fish in my net. I use a floating wood net, so it's nice because I can put the fish in it. It floats. The fish is in the water. I don't bring them up onto the deck if I can absolutely avoid it. To get the hook out or what have you. And there's times where the fish is just going nuts and I'm like, dump them. Or you're holding on to them and instead of dropping them in the boat, just overboard, and we don't get a picture of that fish. It is what it is. Because it's not worth beating the heck out of the fish for 1 shot or 2 shots.
Yeah, because there's definitely been a better shift, because obviously prior to social media, you had to kill it to show you got it. Where now there's that more of, I suppose people can take a photo to show that they got it, but it's still making sure that's done in the right way.
Yeah, it can be done. It can be done well.
Yeah. Because ultimately, you know, if you don't do it well, you might as well have whacked it on the head.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Would have been kinder.
Yeah.
And then even down to stuff like, I'm a big fan of barbless hooks, that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, people will kind of back and forth again about that, but at the end of the day, all you got to do is stick a barbless hook in your arm and stick a barbed hook in your arm, and then see which one makes more
Ooh,
damage.
I know which one is better.
When you rip it out, And let's face it, I don't know much, but everyone busts a fish off every now and then. So I don't want to leave hardware in a fish. I've caught plenty of fish over the years with plenty of
Living
hooks.
fly box.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more chance. Just thinking forward a little bit about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, if I do bust a fish off, there's got a much better chance of that hook just falling out. Like most of the fish I catch, once it's in the net and the pressure's off, the hook's out already. So I like to think the same thing is the case when you bust a fish off. You know, if it doesn't fall out straight away, it's definitely got a better chance of coming out.
Yeah, but with a barbless hook, I'm going to lose all my fish.
Oh, damn it! That's
I
right.
hear that a lot. And British Columbia British Columbia has been barbless forever. Ocean and I'm like, I've been there. They kill fish, they eat fish, they catch a lot of fish.
On barbless.
I would say, you know, if you're fishing something like a clouser or something that's got a big dumbbell eye up front and almost acts like a jig, when that fish jumps, there's a good chance the fish is going to throw it. But with a dry fly, nymph, what have you, it's so rare that you're going to lose a fish from a barbless hook.
If you bite the fish properly.
Yeah, if you fight the fish properly. Yeah, you give
So a
them
lot of people
slack in that.
a lot of people don't keep a good amount of pressure on that fly,
and then it just pops out.
Mm.
And fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, you got to keep a good bird's tension.
Yeah.
It
And
does
you've
come
got
out a lot
skill.
easier though, out of
How?
your skin when it's barbless.
Yeah, I was pretty thankful the other day when I put one in my ear. That was just barbless. I was just like, ooh. I was lucky, otherwise I would have been walking out with it there and everyone would have been like, oh, what happened there?
New piercing.
Yeah.
Crush those bugs. But yeah, just little things like that go a long way for kind of looking after. I mean, we're out there because we love fishing, we love the place, we love the fish. So why wouldn't you want to do everything you can to minimise your impact on that fish?
Mm.
I just don't understand people that don't think like that.
Yeah. Because there's been a good shift with saltwater fishing in New Zealand too. Like if you look at the catch and release numbers must be way higher than what they were, sort of 20, 30 years ago.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be more of a sport, like with the younger generation, seems to be more of sport-based fishing rather than just kill to eat.
Yeah,
Like they, or even I've seen my old man change massively. Like we used to go out when we were kids and you would just, all the big fish, you'd keep it because you want to take it home and show, everyone, we caught this big snapper, but it's like, and you keep your limit always. If you caught your limit, you kept your limit.
Yeah.
We now go out and we'll catch 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how many on the boat, then, that's enough to give us a couple of meals and the rest just get let go. And it's all about, all the bigger fish are going back and...
They're your big breeding fish.
Yeah,
They're the genes you want going forward.
Yeah. So it's just that, like, I've even seen my old man change on it. So I'm sure that is, it's not only him that's changing. And I definitely have noticed that I've got I suppose a lot of guys I played rugby with, and so I've got a lot of friends that are, sort of 10 years plus younger. Just that I've sort of played rugby with through my career, and they're all into their fishing now, and they're very much just solely sport based. Like it's all, they go out and climb into the kingfish, and they won't even bring any home. They'll go out and have a wicked day and catch a bunch and let them go. And same with the snapper. They're all out there soft baiting, and it's all about just having fun. And
yeah, it's good. I guess it's about just minimising that impact that we have on it. Yeah. It's a big one. I'd like to know what the answer is, but it has to be education.
Yeah.
But then it has to be received by people that are willing to be educated.
Yeah.
Have you seen a big, noticed any sort of change in numbers, size of fish in the time that you've been doing it here in New Zealand?
I think it goes in ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
I mean, talking to like legends like Tony Entwistle and Peter Cardy and stuff like that, who are guides from like 40 years ago, like the guys that pioneered backcountry guiding and heli fishing and all that kind of stuff. You listen to some of the stuff they're telling you from back in like the 70s, and like the size and numbers and quality of the fishery just sounds unbelievable to what it is today. So I guess it's not so much in the last 10 years or so. It just seems to have kind of be roughly the same, maybe. I guess it depends on the fishery, but I think it's definitely overall on the decline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Certainly listen to the guys like I just mentioned about what they used to see and experience in the backcountry, and it just sounds like Disneyland.
Yeah.
Compared to what you see now, like stupid and a huge decline in the fisheries, which is worrying.
Yeah. Because they've increased the number of trout you can keep too, right?
Only in the Taupo district.
I mean Taupo.
Yeah, that's just in those lake tributaries.
Yeah.
Actually, now thinking about it, I guess I think of across the board, there's definitely been a decline in water quality, fish quality. So actually, I'll change my first answer to it's on the way down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with dairy. A lot of that has to do with forestry, and just the general sort of state of the way the country's going. As far as just environmentally, not really seem to care.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fisheries. I can think of a couple of rivers that used to just be like quality that I don't even bother going to anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's just doesn't seem worth it. Yeah, and there's a lot of forestry around there.
Yeah.
And dairy everywhere up here. More so in the South Island now too. A lot of dairy down there, which is a worry. Yeah. So, I don't know.
I mean, it's still good fish to be found, but I feel like maybe it's definitely not what it was. Yeah. Lake Taupo and the rivers that run to that is a pretty unusual fishery. It's not the norm around the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just got that big inland sea and those few decent tributaries that run in, and it's kind of like a little self-sustaining fishery. But outside of there, you get into the back country, it's way more fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's it can handle way less. Too many people taking fish. Environmental factors, that kind of thing. It can ruin fishery pretty quick within 2 seasons.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, something needs to happen.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. But I'm basing that on nothing else, and just what we've
Observations,
seen.
yeah,
Observations, and talking to guys like these, and just what they've seen,
Yeah.
and it all seems to be pretty much the same kind of story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had I saw a report on the news here the other day, and they were talking water quality after they'd done studies all over North and South Island, and they were rating issues, and it's primarily dairy, but rating water quality, and it's definitely going the wrong direction. So it was like 60% or something of the bodies of water were of concern and not improving. Like they're doing it over a period of years, but it was, I don't remember all of the numbers, but it was definitely going the wrong direction as far as turbidity, E. coli in the water, and phosphorus in the water from the farm. So
There's even in Taupo, the last couple of summers or a couple of summers ago, there were even spots where they had no swimming signs. You can't go swimming there, especially like one of the cleanest lakes in the country, sort of thing. Yeah, because of algae blooms and stuff, because of nitrates in the water from whatever shit's going in there.
Yeah.
it's tough because that dairy industry is so big. It brings in so much money, but we've had the same issue in the States. It can destroy an unbelievable river in a matter of a year or two. When all those nitrates get in there, and it's so hard you can recover after that, but once the damage is done, it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another win for humans. well done, everyone.
Yeah. Is there, without giving too much away, favourite backcountry spots in New Zealand?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
There's some great places to go and find.
Yeah.
Just got to go find them.
Yeah.
And we're lucky here that despite what I just said then about things on the decline, there's still
a lot of amazing water.
Yeah, more than you can fish in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And then all you got to do is just start with a map.
Yeah.
There's a couple of resources you can use for starting points out there, and then just put your boots on and go walk.
Yeah.
Go look.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, so too many people just want to go here, get out here and fish here, and then catch fish, and it's not what it's about.
No, the journey's more.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
I understand
that's
that.
what I enjoy is it's why I mentioned it earlier, the process part of it.
Yeah, it's all part of it. It's a massive part of it.
Yeah.
Always try and every year explore tons of water that I've never been to. I like that anticipation of you going in there and you go, this could be dog shit. I might not even see a fish today, but sometimes you just find something real special. And then that's part of the buzz,
Yeah.
I understand people have different amounts of time and limited time to do that, but it doesn't mean to say that you can't. Yeah. It's just you've got to be willing to kind of just put a little bit of work in,
Yeah, a bit of preparation and
just put some time in, go have a look.
Yeah.
Makes it more special.
Yeah. There must be some amazing fishing down in the South Island that's just not touched because there's so much just big country.
I don't know about not touched. It's hard to find places that aren't touched these days.
Helicopters.
Helicopters, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the North Islands are underrated, So much.
A lot of Americans, they're like, you're going to South Island, right? I'm like, well, I'm going to be down there, and they don't even talk about fishing North Island. Like, there is unbelievable fishing in the North Island. Granted, some of the backcountry stuff on the South Island is amazing, and talk about doing the research. The first time I came here, which was probably 8 years ago, I had 2 days to myself. I didn't know Alex at the time. We weren't in a lot of the shops then. I didn't have anybody to lean on. It was looking at a map, just kind of noodling it through, driving all over the place and hiking my butt off. And I kind of got that quintessential of what Americans think of. I think South Island, New Zealand, a fish every mile and a half. Beautiful countryside. Even if I didn't find a fish, it was just stunning. I found some. Most of them were complete jerks, but managed to catch a few really nice fish. And I didn't have assistance from anybody here in New Zealand. It was just sitting down in the hotel room, looking at maps and looking at the topographic maps. More importantly, am I going to kill myself on this hike? Is it flat? Those lines are really close together. But, you know, a couple of the places we probably put 10 or 11 miles on in a day. And it's doable. The downside to that is I know some of the places that Alex will hike into, you got 2 days into a place and now you hear a helicopter coming. And that's are they going to land are they going to see you and go, no, we're going to go to the next one over? Or are they going to drop people off? And who knows if somebody was in there heli fishing yesterday, because I fished a river the first time I was here, and I'm not the greatest caster in the world, but I know for sure somebody had been in there because we had made just beautiful presentations to a half a dozen fish, and they wanted nothing to do with anything. So, but there's so much water.
So much water, yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah, I think, yeah.
And you've got pretty good access here, too. Some places we have in the States, it's all private.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you walk into a spot and somebody's cell phone thing is triggered, and next thing you know, the security guys are there and they're wanting to know what you're doing. And where we are in Michigan, we're high water mark. So as long as I gain legal access to a river at a bridge and stay in the river, I can hike wherever I want. We have the same thing out in Montana, but we had security guys for a couple of well-known movie stars come and tell us that we couldn't fish there. And we're like, we hiked 6 miles in here. We can fish here. We accessed at the bridge, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, we can't tell you to leave. I'm like, well, that's good because we're not, because fly fishing is amazing. But, yeah, you've got good access here. And I stopped a couple times, and, you know, sheep farmers part of the road. Hey, mind if I hop the fence? And, oh, yeah, if you go down here, there's actually a step over. If you open a gate, no problem, just close it again. The river's like about a mile over the thing here. Just have at it, you know.
Yeah, you touch on a good point there, Jeff, as far as, like, accessing through people's land. Generally, if you go and knock on someone's door, they're really accommodating. Some people say no, that's fine, it's up to them. But most people are real friendly, and the fact that you've made the effort to go and ask them, they really appreciate that. If you just think, oh, I'll just hop over this fence and I'll boost over there and jump in the river, that's not a good idea. Eh? Not only does it piss off the farmers and they might come and have a go at you, you're actually potentially ruining it for everyone else coming behind you as well. You know, there's a lot of farmers that have shut down all access through their property to rivers because they just got sick of people just taking a piss, jumping fences, leaving gates open and just not asking.
Leaving trash.
Yeah, and it just could have been avoided by people just, you know, just doing the right thing and going and asking. And so that's another option. You know, you can just go and turn up with a box of beers. Hey, man, there you go. There's a little koha.
Yeah, the one guy I asked, he was awesome. And I actually sat on the side of the hill and watched him for about a half hour because he had a paddock that must have had 700 head of sheep in it, and he had 2 dogs. And to sit and watch these dogs, just from him whistling, watching these, pushing him from one paddock into another and getting him into a third one where they were getting him somewhere else, but watching the dog run across the top of the sheep and just different whistles. Those dogs knew exactly what to do, and it was just so cool. I'm like, I guess I could be catching trout right now, but I just sat down. It was so cool to watch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, well, we're covered pretty much a fair whack there. Is there anything else that you guys want to add or leave the listeners with?
I think we pretty much covered a fair few things. But I guess going back to the beginning there is if you're just getting into it, like Jeff mentioned, like your tackle shop's a good place to start if you don't know anybody. Like I say, I'd say if you have a local specialist like fly fishing shop, that, you know, it's what they're all about. They're the ones to go and see. Just because anyone in there is going to be probably a fly fishing addict. That's why they're working there. And they'll have a lot of knowledge that they'll be happy to help you out with. And they'll have good knowledge of the local rivers and where to start and maybe someone you can talk to and that kind of thing. So if you don't have somebody like a buddy or a family member, tackle shop's a good place to start. YouTube's a great place to kind of get some informational stuff. Like, it's crazy how much information's on there, eh?
Yeah.
And then once you kind of have a little bit of a direction and some guidance, just put the time in.
Yeah.
And if you do bump into a brick wall, somebody just is a little bit standoffish or something, don't stop there. You know, try and find somebody else or go to a different shop and have a chat with somebody. And it's too cool of a sport to just have one bad experience and decide I'm out. So it's well worth the time and effort to get hooked up with the right people to kind of help you get into it, and then get ready to spend some money and and some time and be frustrated and learn to swear a lot. And
Don't be shy to reach out to people on social media as well.
yeah,
There's a lot of genuinely good people out there that are willing to help out. I've helped a few myself.
yeah,
Even if you don't know where to start, they might be able to point you in the right direction somewhere.
yeah. Oh, you should go to such and such a club, and Charlie there is just—he's the coolest guy. He kind of got me into it, and
Or there's a fly fishing night this club is putting on or something.
yeah.
Just go out there and give it a nudge.
Mm.
It's good fun out there.
Yeah. What about you, Ben? Anything to add to that?
Don't give up.
Don't give up,
Just
eh?
keep at it.
Yeah.
Keep grinding.
Yeah.
Mm.
We just want you to get the buzz that we do, so just keep asking, and some good fella's gonna show you the ropes eventually.
Mm.
Read some books.
A lifelong obsession.
Oh yeah, it just gets worse.
Mm.
Never been more info out there available to people than ever before, so
Yeah.
just depends how deep you want to dive.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So a long way down the rabbit hole.
Cool, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Greatly appreciated. And yeah, I learned a ton just sitting here. So I'm sure the listeners will take something out of this and might be able to convert a few more of those salt fishermen into getting out there and giving it a go.
Yeah, that'd be good, eh?
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey team, hope you enjoyed that podcast as much as I did. So whether you're a keen fly fisherman or you're just interested in getting into the sport, you've heard how important a good fly line is. So Kilwell Sports have got the Amplitude Infinity Smooth in a 5-weight and a 6-weight by Scientific Anglers to give away, valued at over $400. So to enter, you're going to jump on Facebook and or Instagram. Make sure you're following Kilwell Sports and Real Tales with Sweens. From there, you're going to find this podcast episode post. You're going to tag a buddy in the comments below and share the post on your story. Every mate tagged will be an entry into the draw. So get tagging, get sharing, and the winner will be drawn 2 weeks after this podcast airs. And I'll announce the winner on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks again for listening, team, and I'll catch you on the next episode.